She was just trying to get her newborn home safely. A quiet night drive after a long day at the hospital, no crime, no noise, just a mother and her baby wrapped in peace. But in an instant, flashing red and blue lights shattered that calm. The officers said it was a routine stop. Yet their hands were already on their weapons, and the growl of a police dog echoed through the night. She tried to speak, to explain, but fear silenced her faster than the command that followed: release the K9. In seconds, chaos replaced calm. A woman's scream. A baby's cry. A truth no one could unsee. But what those officers didn't know was who she really was, and what she was capable of. Because this wasn't just another traffic stop. It was the moment justice met the wrong mother, and the truth started to bite back. So what happens when the trained handler becomes the hunted? Tell me, where are you watching this story from right now? Before that night, Sergeant Maya Thompson lived quietly, far from the chaos she'd once known. After years serving as a K9 handler in the U.S. Army, she'd finally traded her fatigues for motherhood. Her world now revolved around soft lullabies, baby bottles, and the tiny heartbeat she cradled every night. Her neighborhood wasn't perfect, but it was peaceful, a small suburban stretch where porch lights glowed and kids rode their bikes past trimmed lawns. Maya had chosen it for one reason: safety. After everything she'd seen in combat, she wanted her daughter to grow up far from fear. She had learnt discipline, calm, and strength, the kind that comes from commanding powerful dogs under fire. But motherhood had softened her in ways she never expected. Every morning, she'd whisper to her baby, "You're safe now. Mama's got you." And she believed it. That evening, the sun dipped low, painting the sky in burnt orange. Maya had just been discharged from the hospital, her baby only 3 days old. She strapped the tiny infant into the car seat, double-checked every buckle, and smiled at the soft coo that followed. The drive home was quiet, the kind of silence that feels earned. Streetlights flickered on, one by one, guiding her through familiar roads. Her mind drifted between exhaustion and relief, until she noticed the flashing lights in her rearview mirror. At first, she thought it was a coincidence. Maybe the police were headed somewhere else. But the lights stayed behind her, close, too close. She eased over, signaled, and waited. Maya wasn't worried. Not yet. She'd done nothing wrong, her license was valid, and her registration was up to date. She'd spent years working alongside officers and soldiers, she respected them. But as the minutes stretched, something about the silence behind her felt wrong. No officer approached. Instead, 2 more cars pulled up. Their headlights flared against her mirror, flooding the car in white. Her baby stirred, letting out a soft cry. Her chest tightened. Training kicked in, calm breathing, steady hands, but this wasn't a battlefield she recognized. Then came the low, guttural bark. A sound she'd trained hundreds of times before, but now it felt like a warning. Something inside her whispered, "This isn't just a stop." Because what was waiting outside that car wasn't protocol, it was prejudice. The night air grew colder as Maya waited, motionless in her car. The flashing lights behind her painted everything in red and blue, colors she once associated with safety. Now, they felt like a trap closing in. Through the rearview mirror, she watched silhouettes move, slow, deliberate, almost theatrical. One officer approached on the left, another on the right. No greetings, no explanation. Just hands hovering near holsters and eyes locked on her. She lowered her window halfway, her voice steady but soft. "Officer, is there a problem?" No answer. Instead, the one on the driver's side spoke into his radio. The other moved closer, his flashlight blinding her. It scanned across her face, down to the car seat, then lingered. A newborn's cry filled the silence. "Step out of the vehicle." Her heart skipped. "I just came from the hospital, my baby's 3 days old. Can you tell me what?" "Out. Now." The tone wasn't a request. It was a verdict. She remembered her training: stay calm. Control your breathing. Comply. But the trembling in her hands betrayed her. Slowly, she unbuckled her seatbelt, glancing at her daughter, still crying, tiny fists waving in the dark. As Maya stepped out, the cold hit her like a slap. The pavement was wet, the smell of rain mixing with exhaust. Behind her, another door slammed, a third officer had arrived. Their formation was tight and tactical. It didn't feel like a traffic stop anymore. It felt like a mission. License and registration. She handed them over. Her name, Sergeant Maya Thompson, caught one officer's eye. Military, her. His voice dripped with sarcasm. Are you carrying any weapons tonight, Sergeant? She shook her head. No, sir. Just my baby. He smirked, glancing at his partner. We'll see about that. They circled her vehicle, flashlights slicing through the darkness. One of them opened the back door without asking. The baby's cry grew sharper. Don't touch her. Maya's voice broke through before she could stop herself. The nearest officer turned sharply. Watch your tone. Another barked into his radio, K9 unit ready. Maya froze. The sound of claws on asphalt echoed from behind one of the cars. She knew that sound too well, the eager pull of a trained dog ready for command. She had once been the one giving that order. Now, she was the one they were preparing to unleash it on. If you're still watching, hit subscribe, more stories like this deserve to be heard. Her mind raced. What did I do? Why me? But deep down, she already knew. Her skin had answered that question long before she could. Back up, one officer shouted. Hands where I can see them. She obeyed, tears threatening to fall but never reaching her cheeks. Her military instincts kicked in. Stay composed, stay visible, don't provoke. But every cell in her body screamed to protect her child. The K9 barked again, louder this time. The handler struggled to control it. The dog lunged, teeth flashing in the light. Her pulse quickened. She had trained dogs exactly like this one, loyal, fearless, and conditioned to obey. But she also knew their weakness, hesitation in the handler. One wrong command, and chaos follows. Get back in the car, the handler yelled. I can't, my baby. I said get back. The shouting grew. One officer reached for her arm, the grip rough, pulling her off balance. The baby's cry pierced through everything, higher, sharper, desperate. And then, chaos. The K9 broke free. Maya turned, shielding her child as the dog lunged toward the open door. Her reflexes took over, years of muscle memory snapping into action. With one swift move, she stepped aside, grabbed the leash midair, and spun, commanding sharply, down. The dog froze, instinct overriding confusion. The officers stared, stunned. For a split second, silence returned. Only the hum of engines and the baby's soft whimper filled the night. Maya stood tall, the leash firm in her hand. I told you, she said, voice trembling but steady, I'm not your threat. But even as she spoke, she saw it, the anger in their eyes. The humiliation of being defied. And humiliation, she knew, was dangerous. Because what came next wouldn't be about law or order. It would be about power. For a heartbeat, everything stood still, the world balanced between chaos and control. Maya's grip on the K9 leash was firm, her breath sharp in the cold air. The officers stared, their pride wounded, their authority questioned. Then one of them moved. Fast. Furious. Drop it, he shouted, his hand reaching for his weapon. Maya raised her empty palm, trembling but defiant. There's a baby in that car. Please. But the command came anyway. Down. Now. She dropped to her knees, her mind racing. The leash slipped from her hand, and the dog whimpered, confused, trained to obey but unsure who to trust. Maya's body shook with the realization that this wasn't about law anymore. This was about control, and she was losing it. Another officer grabbed her by the arm, yanking her backward. She stumbled, hitting the ground hard, gravel biting into her palms. The world spun, lights, shouts, and her baby's wail piercing through the noise. Stay down. She turned her head just in time to see one officer reaching into her car, his hands dangerously close to her newborn. Instinct overpowered reason. Maya surged forward, screaming, "Don't touch my child." That moment changed everything. The dog barked wildly, confused by the tension, lunging between them. The handler shouted, pulling at the leash, but it was too late. The chaos had turned into a storm. One officer slipped, and another drew his taser. Electricity cracked through the air. Maya felt the shock in her chest, her muscles locking in pain as she collapsed beside her car. Her vision blurred, the taste of blood filling her mouth. All she could hear was her baby crying, sharp, scared, and alive. "Stop," she tried to yell, but her voice came out broken. "Please, she's just a baby." Then came the flashing lights of more cruisers, not for help, but for backup. Neighbors stepped outside, phones raised, faces lit by horror. For the first time, witnesses were watching. And that, perhaps, was her only protection. By the time the sirens faded and the last flash of red light disappeared, the world around Maya had changed forever. She sat on the curb, wrapped in a thin hospital blanket, her baby safe in her arms. Her hands still trembled, not from fear, but from the weight of what she had just survived. Around her, the officers moved quietly now, their voices hushed, their confidence fractured by the glow of countless phone cameras capturing every detail. In the days that followed, the footage spread like wildfire. A mother, unarmed, was thrown to the ground. A crying newborn. Officers shouting. A K9 lunging. And then, her command, her calm authority, her strength. The world saw everything. What began as a small-town traffic stop became a national headline. Protests grew outside the precinct. People held signs with her name, Maya Thompson, next to words like justice, accountability, and change. But while the nation argued, Maya stayed silent. Healing wasn't simple. Her body carried bruises, but the deeper wounds ran inside, the memory of flashing lights, her baby's cry, and the moment she realized her skin color had turned her service into suspicion. Weeks later, a letter arrived, a formal apology from the department. Words on paper. No amount of ink could undo what had been done. Yet Maya didn't burn it. She framed it. Not as forgiveness, but as a reminder. Because she knew this wasn't just her story, it was the story of so many others still waiting to be heard. And as she began to speak, her message echoed louder than ever. Until justice protects everyone equally, none of us are truly safe. That night may have taken her peace, but it gave the world a truth it couldn't unsee. Because until change is real, until equality isn't questioned, how many more mothers will have to teach their babies what survival sounds like? If this story moved you, like and share it and drop a comment to let others know you still believe in justice.